next step in our dodge and burn process is contouring. So of course I'm talking about global dodge and burn, and it's called contouring because we set up our contours by this. We're going to make this image more sharp and more dynamic. So that's why dodge and burn, global dodge and burn is calling contouring, but I already explained that before to you. So few words that I have to tell before we start working actually is some of the knowledge I already have, the experience, and that maybe I want to aware you from the mistakes you could do. So as you can notice right now, this image is quite flat, and the reason is our retouching, which we did before, our basic retouching, as well as local dodge and burn. And even without this, the images often looks quite flat because of the lights. Is too much of it. We don't have such a strong contours, so that is very important for our process. And the same as with local dodge and burn, many people think they can do some simple steps and skip local dodge and burn. And of course, as you already know, it doesn't work that way. So local dodge and burn is not something you can skip, because you cannot get this kind of result without doing dodging and burning. As well, the next step, which is also very often missed, not that often as local dodge and burn, but it's still sometimes missed by many people, is global dodge and burn. And it's absolutely something really bad, if I could say like this, because I can say straight away when I look at the image, I can say there was not enough dodge and burn or something. And for many people who retouch, it looks quite nice because they think they can even out the skin, and that's alright. But when we do not set up the contours, when we don't make this image dynamic, it will be flat, and we need to give some of the character. So how do we work with this? As I already explained you before, I'm going to work with the brush once again, but this time I'm going to set up the flow just a little bit stronger, 3%. And of course, I'm using the brush that is suitable for it. Let me check if it's soft enough. Everything is still the same. So in local dodge and burn, the most of the things I do is using dodging, but in global dodge and burn, we usually use, maybe not usually, but mostly we use more burning. And I'm going to start with this. Don't worry about the hair, because of course we can sort this out after all. But I'm very softly with really soft brush trying to set up the contours, and it's very easy to define what's the important because you already have the contours on the image, but they are not so visible. So use the contours you already have on the image and then just try to sort it out. Just paint over it. We have this line, which is super important, and that's something you have to take care of. You have pink on the cheek, so also try to make this more visible. Work with this that you already have on the image. So dodging and burning, it is complicated sometimes, but when you use the information you already have and you can already see, it won't be so difficult for you. So we did just a little bit work. I could do much more. It was very soft, but you can already see the difference. And even after this small basic step I did over here, let's zoom this out even more, you can see how it's changing the image. It's much more sharpened. You can see the mistakes you did as well. I think I went not enough over here in that area, and over here. Use the suitable size of the brush for it. Also, I can find some of the steps that actually could be done in local, but here I have such a quite big spot which is too bright. It's very easy to sort it out right now. Have a look. So yeah, then I'm going to the neck, which of course has to have really beautiful shadows, and I can see over here everything. As I said, I already have the shadows, so I'm using the contours that I already have to improve the work I do, to improve the image. And that's very common, that people think this kind of shadows are not something we want. I notice many people trying to remove this kind of shadows because they think that makes the model maybe look old. I don't know what they're thinking, but they often remove such a shadows. These shadows, it's not something you remove. You cannot remove this kind of shadows because they're responsible for character of the model and for character of the image. So if you have shadows which actually define the bones, define the shapes of the model, you cannot remove this. You want to improve these shapes. You want to improve these shapes that model actually has. But of course, if you would get the challenge, if someone would tell you who wants you to do this, just remove this, you have to do this. But I don't believe it could happen really often with such a details like this. So let's do what we need to do. Let's have a look at the image. Yeah, it's really amazing. Don't be afraid to use it, that first of all. But if you don't feel comfortable, it's nothing wrong. It doesn't have to be so strong, because I'm sometimes being afraid, or I used to be afraid of dodging and burning, and I wasn't doing this enough. And that's okay. This happens, of course. And when it happens to me, I often just of course I'm going to improve the eyebrows. That's very important. But the thing is, if I won't do enough dodging and burning in that step, it's nothing to be bothered, because of course we can use at the end, for example, gray layer and improve this a little bit. But what is my personal favorite, I sort such things with selective color, which I absolutely love. I probably told this already a few times. So okay, and you can see the shapes actually with drawing, it's very soft over here, but you can see the contours that actually exist. It doesn't look so beautiful anymore, but you can see what are you doing. Okay, so yeah, that's how I work. And of course over here I was working a bit, and I even out this area a bit too much before. And of course we want to have the shape of the nose, so it's very important to keep the eye on the shadows that exist on the nose, because we don't want to lose the shapes. Also, I need to see the local touch and burn. I even out in that area too much. I'm going to fix this right now. So it's always, maybe not always, but often you can notice what you did too much. And right now it will be perfect, and I'm also going to improve that area. Okay, I can close this. But of course I want to be really careful. And this part I'm going to improve with lights. About lights I will tell you a bit more also. Of course I did a mistake because I was using color black. Okay. Yeah, it looks way better. Here we have a quite strong shadow. I didn't want to even this out for a reason, because it's define the area under the lips, so it wouldn't really look so great if you would do this. But I'm not going to paint here that much, because I already have really nice shadow over here, maybe here, just to make this a bit darken. But once again, it has to be with really nice control. Okay. a bit too much. So if I do something too much, I'm just trying to fix this with the color black painting on the layer mask. Next step is, of course, I need to take care about the fingers to give them a bit more contrast, to give them a bit more dynamic. But of course, be careful to not affect other areas that you don't really want to affect. So I'm not using such a massive brush in that area anymore. And of course go right with the direction of the shadows. That's other mistakes. It's quite common. Okay, so I did a little bit of work using burn. You can see from the distance. We still need to work a bit more, but now I want to show you how we work with Dutch, and you're going to see the result even better after we Dutch this image a little bit. So I'm going to start with forehead, and once again I'm going to choose a bigger brush, and this forehead is too dark for my taste, and probably not for my taste. So I'm just going to brighten this up just a little bit, and the area where the highlights are coming. And also I'm going to give you this tip. This area, this is quite important, and that's a really amazing tip. If you want to make the eye look a bit bigger and your eyebrows a bit higher, just brighten this area a little bit. It's a really great tip. I often use this. If we brighten this area, the impression will make the eyes a bit bigger. So over here, we want to brighten this. Yeah. Here I don't want to brighten this area too much, but mostly that area. It was a bit in the shadow. And also this area you need to take care of. So it's going to make the bones of the face a bit stronger, or they make the impression of the bones that it's going to pop out a little bit. Yeah, it's really nice. In these areas I really want to be careful, because here where we have a lot of shadows, it's easy to do a mistake. So just don't do this. Don't even out the shadows, because you want to keep them. Don't destroy your work you actually had. Actually, I'm supposed to be bothered a bit more than you, because in your case, if you do mistakes, it's okay. In my case, when I need to improve something over and over, it probably doesn't look well for the purpose of this course. So if you do a mistake, just don't worry about this. Probably just do this once again, or fix this. Okay, of course, fingers. We can easily see on the fingers where the highlights are. So many people would use really stronger flow, and if it's going to give you an advantage, not really. You can do this quicker, as well as easier you can do any mistake. So it's okay to work with really soft flow, do this a bit longer, just to make sure that you're building up the effect really softly, with control. Because as I said before, doing other thing, it's easy for our eyes to get used to, and then also it's easy to do mistakes. Okay, bit over here. Have a look from the distance. it's really nicely improved the shape of the face, the bones. I really like this, but here I don't like this area. So once again, often what I recommend you to look from the distance, just to zoom out, see from the distance. Let's take about the neck. And on the neck you can see how the lights are going. So once again, just paint with the lights. And if you have some shadows going in weird directions, that's something you're going to improve. I believe you're going to do this. And usually if I would do this for a client, I would do this much more messy. I would paint once with dodging, once with burning, and try to fix the areas on which I'm doing mistakes, really. Have a look. The neck look really, really nice now. You can see. And also the image itself looks so much more dynamic. That's and the thing you will notice for sure, as you can see, that's the before and after. The face and all the shape of the face is a bit more tidy. I know it's not really nice word, maybe to use for the model or for the image, but that's the right word for me to call it like this. The face will be smaller, and that's the main key, I would say. Maybe not main key, but that's very important, and that's something you will notice for sure. Now the last quick corrections. To see it. And of course on the hair, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use color black, and flow will be 100. And here, that area on the hair that I probably affected a little bit by accident, I'm just going to bring this back to the previous form, of course. We can help ourselves by masking this. Now it doesn't look well. Many people even don't care and leave the hair. It's not such a huge difference, but sometimes I think it's better just to do like this. And you can actually see we don't affect the hair, just a face, and it's giving us really nice effect. And as you can see, the dodge and burn wasn't so strong that I did. Okay, so that looks right. Right now I'm going to take down flow once again to 3%, and don't forget to change this for color white, because we don't want to destroy the work we did. And still I feel I need to improve few of the areas. The white color over here. As I said, don't be afraid to paint, to dodge and burn the image. You're not going to destroy this that much. You're not going to destroy this at all. Don't be afraid about mistakes. I did a mistake right now. I was painting on this hue saturation layer. Of course, it didn't affect this anyway, but I often do such a silly mistakes, and everyone does. So no reason to be ashamed or afraid. A little bit more on the neck. Had this really nice shape over here to improve this. Have a look before and after. This neck looks a bit thinner actually. That's the really next advantage. of this, and that's how it looked before and after. As you can see, the face looks smaller, neck looks slimmer, and we have really nice and dynamic. I could add a bit more shadows. Of course, I will be pushed to fix this on the hair once again, but we can do this in few areas, and that would be it. Maybe a bit more over here. That's our Dutch layer. As you can see, there wasn't really much, just these areas, and we can actually analyze if all the white areas we did. I noticed that it's done over here. It could be just a bit more, and the same with burn areas. We can see if all the areas in the shadows are actually done, and if yes, that should be all right. But as you noticed, this area could have just a bit more brightness. So that's how I do global Dutch and burn for my beauty retouch.